Hello, ladies. Welcome to another episode of Showcase Interview with me, your host, Leslie Vedette. And this week I have the privilege of interviewing Kelly Craig. She's a new connection, and I'm really excited for you to get to know her. I got to know her a little bit. She spends a part of her life as a codependency recovery coach, and she's the author of Healing from a Loved One's Addiction, which I just snagged my Kindle version a few years ago and I got right into it. It really touches my family on a truly deeper level than most people really know. They don't know my full story. I have a younger brother who has been battling alcoholism for over 30 years. And I myself and my family have really all felt helpless in helping him because it really doesn't come down to what we want, it's what he wants. So it's been a battle, and I guess an uphill battle for our family. And I've always, I never really knew the story, like what that even meant for my family. Kelly shared earlier in the group today that she has 3 dogs and 3 cats. I love that. So she's a fur baby mom. She's also a mom to 2 adult children, and we're going to talk about her life. Something I learned about Kelly, not only from a previous call that she and I had to get to know each other a little bit, but when I started doing some research about this lovely soul, and what I found out was that she takes pride in her growth in overcoming codependency. She's a #1 best-selling co-author of Still Beautiful: How to Discover Your Value, Self-Worth, and the Self-Love Formula. I love it. You know me, I'm all self-care all over that. Kelly and the other co-authors share how they've overcome tragic obstacles to realize their beauty within. Yes, because real beauty comes from within anyways, right? Because beauty really is only, on the outside, it's surface level, but the inside, that's where everything is, all the goodness. Through Kelly's journey of family addiction, she's learned to use spiritual practices to heal her life. She has seen the power of inner healing through self-love. She's now dedicated to helping families who are on this hell journey with their loved ones in addiction. Like I said, it hits close to home for me. I'm actually going to stop there because I really want you to hear from this amazing woman herself and let her tell you her story. Like I said, I met Kelly through Facebook, and we got to know each other a little bit a few weeks ago on a connection call. I love what she's doing and using her life experiences, her battles, and her victories. And through her own transformational journey, she is helping others in the mental wellness space. And as I said, I am excited for all of you to get to know her. So with that being said, I would love to introduce to you all Ms. Kelly Craig. Hi, Kelly. Hi.
Hi. So
How
to
are you?
see you.
Yes, it's so nice to connect with you again. It's been a while.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for such a kind introduction.
Oh,
I feel
wow.
special.
Everything is true, though. I mean, I got to have the privilege of a conversation with you a few weeks ago, as I was saying. And, I just really love what you're doing. But more so as I've gotten into the book, because I started reading it immediately. As I said, this really hits home for me. And what I really have found is that there's such similarities, not necessarily everything in our journey, but I can see a lot of similarities in some of the things that we've experienced. And it really it makes one feel like they're not alone when they can, have other people to lean on who've been similar experience or in the same boat, so to speak. So I just wanted to acknowledge that because the book has so far, I've been reading it and I didn't want to put it down, but obviously, we're here today to talk and I really want to talk about that. But before we get started, I like to start my guests off with just a couple of really easy, super easy rapid fire personal questions, just so that they get to know you a little bit more, because I have already had the privilege of speaking with you once before. So are you game?
I am. Sure. Fire away.
Awesome. Okay. So I did send this question to you ahead of time because I know it can be a little bit of a challenge sometimes, especially when you're put on the spot. So the first question is, describe yourself using 3 words.
Yeah, that was a good one, but I don't think I really struggled with it. I know that I'm
Okay.
loving, I'm caring, and I'm compassionate. So those are three things that I live every day. So
Awesome.
that was
No, that's
kind of
great.
easy, actually.
Well, I actually have had some guests in the past who have said, "Oh, I never actually thought about that." So, sometimes when you're put in the spot to actually reflect back on yourself, it's easier to reflect on others. But I think sometimes when you actually are asked specific questions that describe who you are, it can sometimes take you off thinking, "Okay, well, how do I describe myself?" So,
Yeah.
love
I think
that.
years ago, I don't think I would have been able to answer that easily. I would not have known I had to do the work to get there, right?
Yeah, no, I think your story truly, as I've been reading it, is a true testament definitely to, the things that you've, you know, experienced and you didn't let that keep you back. So I love that. Okay, so the second question is, what's something over the past year that you have, maybe that you're celebrating because we're almost at the end of the year, maybe you've accomplished a big goal?
That would be a tougher question.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
I am actually, so we're not done with the year yet. I've had a lot of accomplishments in my business and things like that, but I'm going to be 50 this year in December.
Oh,
So that is the big accomplishment I think that I could share. And I'm excited for it. Whereas, 30 years ago, I would have thought that 50 was old and that I was never going to get there and things like that. Now I'm really excited about, like, I'm maybe over halfway through my life and I
mhm.
still have us to come, right? So life is what we make of it. And so I can plan whatever I want for the rest of however long I'm going to be here. So that's exciting.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So 50. Yeah. And your story, actually, I was reading about that. So yeah, we're going to get into it. Just like I said, I'm excited. Okay. So, what would you say over your lifetime has been the greatest lesson, or sorry, the greatest accomplishment that you've had so far?
Uh, Moving from a place of survival to gratitude in my life for what I have, where I'm going, life in general, how amazing it is to be on this earth, um, that kind of thing. So, in the past, I would have thought that there wasn't a lot for me, and I didn't have the confidence to move forward. And when I started on my journey and I started moving, I realized I am smart, I am beautiful, I can own my life, and it just shifted everything for me from a place of lack and a place of why me, to a place of I can and I am. And it's just been such an amazing journey to see things unfold the way that they do.
Yeah.
So,
And you understand the power of words, right? What we speak over ourselves is so important to pay attention to. I
right.
love the I can, I am, because, the old way would be I can't, or I won't, I don't, all of the negative things that keep us held back. And that keeps us from even dreaming of the possibility of something different. So I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question would be, what would you say has been your greatest lesson learned?
Ooh, greatest lesson learned. Um, that coming from a place of lack and self doubt is not the way to go. And that we need to learn to turn inside and love ourselves first before we can go out and do the things we want to and love the people that we want to the way that we want to and have success with it. Because, we think we love somebody, but yet they hurt us or we hurt them. And it really comes from our own inner, thoughts about ourselves and how we react to what is going on with anything that we come in contact with, really. So
Mhm.
knowing, that you are who you are, being able to own it, then you can give more to others and do more for others. So I
Yeah,
think
no,
that.
I love that. We're definitely on the same page there. So I really love that. So the next question is, and there's just only two more. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
That I was my own worst enemy, which was the
Wow.
hardest piece of advice to ever receive. I took it to heart and realized that, yeah, I need to own my life. I need to take responsibility for it. It's nobody else's responsibility but mine, and things out there can't affect me unless I let them.
Oh, gosh, beautiful. Oh, love it. Okay, so one last question. This is a fun question. So I'll just give you a little background. I love animals, like every animal. It doesn't matter what it is. I could see, like, I don't know, an armadillo, for example, on the side of, like, just outside my window, and I would think it's the cutest thing. It's just, that's how I am. I'm just very, very drawn to the energy of animals. One of the animals in particular is the elephant. I just feel like there's a soulfulness about them, the way they look at it's almost like when you look into an elephant's eyes, even similar to horses, I've heard people say. But for me, it's just looking into the eyes of an elephant staring back at you is almost like they're looking deep within your soul, and they get you, like they really get you. And so that's my spirit animal. And a lot of that, it comes from, the matriarch of the herd. She is the one that leads everyone through dangers, make sure that the path is clear. She's revered by the rest of the herd. She's the biggest, and the one who comes after her is usually her daughter, like her eldest daughter, who would be then the next one in line. Like it's like a lineage passed down. So I love the elephant. I've chosen it as my spirit animal just based on what the matriarch I guess the idea of what the matriarch does and what she stands for, and it really kind of blends into what I do. So if you had a spirit animal, whether it's something you've done through an actual questionnaire, what is your spirit animal and the story behind that?
Oh, so I would have to go with hawk. And my kids will tell you that I'm hawk crazy because we'll be driving and I'll be like a hawk. They are majestic. They are amazing. They are hunters. They can soar to great heights. They symbolize freedom. They have more meaning than that, and I'd have to look to get into it. But I love, love, love animals as guides, as you do. So every animal that we see has a sign for us. We may see a squirrel all the time, and maybe it's not your sign that time, but maybe one crawls up your window or something like that, and it's telling you something. So
Mm-hmm.
I definitely enjoy using wildlife as part of my guides in my life, and hawks definitely my absolute heart favorite.
Yeah, I know that's cool. I mean, I think, yeah, hawks are, and it's almost like it's not that they're fierce, but they're fierce hunters. They can see everything and they get the bigger picture. They are patient, I think, as well. I think there's like patience because obviously they're making sure they have to see their prey and then find a way to actually make that, go in and get it. So yeah, I think that's amazing. They're beautiful animals, or birds, I should say, and so I appreciate that your share on that. All right. So one of the things, thank you so much for, first of all, for being gracious and answering these questions. As I said, it's really nice just to kind of break the ice before we get into it. But one of the things I didn't say while I was introducing you is that you have this really, truly amazing quote on your Facebook profile by Pablo Picasso, which is, the meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. I absolutely love that quote. It really does resonate me on such a deep level. I was just curious, what drew you to that quote for your Facebook profile?
Um, so through my journey, I started with just spirituality as in angels and the universe and very general things that got me into seeking and realizing that there is more out there than just us,
Mm-hmm.
and that we can tap into that and use it.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, it led me to God. and that God is that universe. And people don't like the term. I interchange it in my book, as you'll find, and I state that, you can call it whatever you want, but there is more out there than us, and it is energetically, we're all connected,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that through my learnings that God really wants us to love, to send out love, and to
Mm-hmm.
be love, and to be light. And so that's really what I'm trying to do. I've done a lot of things in my life that I set out to do and was able to accomplish through all of the learnings and using the universe and all the things. And now I'm at a point where I just have given it over to God and said, lead me wherever you want me, and I will go. And so that is just giving love and shining my light, and offering what I've learned to try and help other people.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think it also like it drew me in. One of the things that you quoted in the book was in this around self-love was a thought is just a thought and a thought can change. And I thought that was really a brilliant quote to put in there because it really does come down to what we're telling ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're thinking, if you want that to be your reality, think it enough, you're going to find ways to bring it in. And it doesn't mean that it's going to magically appear that something becomes your reality. It really comes down to the choices we start making from how we think. And we start like making the conscious choices to, like I'm always in debt. I can't get out of debt. We find ways to like keep ourselves in that frame of mind. Or I don't like myself. I think that I'm a horrible person. I don't like how I look. I don't like how I speak or dress. I don't like anything about myself. And the more you speak those words over yourself, the more it can lead you down that road to isolation. So I think it's really important. But I love that it just was a thought is just a thought and a thought can change. And I think that is a powerful enough phrase to like, if I would hope for people to think, oh, is that really all it is? Because it really is as simple as that, yet it's hard. Like you were saying, someone told you you're your own worst enemy. And that could have been just the way you were thinking. Your thought processes were keeping you possibly stuck in a certain way of life because maybe you didn't think that there was any possibility for anything different because you just kept thinking, this is my life, this is my life, this is my life, that's it. And I think that it's really powerful that just realizing that, oh, how we think is what we're speaking that over ourselves, whether we say it out loud or not. So I really appreciate that.
That quote changed everything for me. Everything.
Yeah.
I was miserable. I was so negative. I couldn't get out of my own way. No one wanted to hear what I had to say. I was losing people in my life because of the way I was acting and talking, and my sister brought me Louise's book, You Can Heal Your Life. And that is the quote, where that quote came from. And it just hit me. A thought is just a thought, and a thought can be changed. So I can change anything I want by thinking a different thought. And it's that easy, but it's yet that hard.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when the journey began, and I really started thinking differently. I was able to quit smoking, start working out, start a business. I went back to college. I graduated. I moved up in my company. All of that came from that quote of a thought is just a thought, and a thought can be changed. So it's that
Yeah.
powerful.
Really powerful. And I think that I'm hoping that the ladies in the group, if they're watching it live or watching it back, that they recognize just how powerful even just a thought can be. Because even though you might not say something out loud, I truly believe that it's still something that you're speaking over yourself because it's in your brain. So, and it's going through, it's filtering through. So you actually have the choice. You can make the decision. Oh, yeah, I don't have to think that way anymore. So yeah, I'm really excited because a couple of things I want to touch on is getting to know you, of course, more because I've learned so much more about you just through starting to read the book. And as I mentioned, your journey and that I believe you're using your gifts from your own recovery through your own recovery process, helping others, which I think is just incredible. And again, I'm just really glad that I get to read your story because it could help me understand a little bit more around my own lifestyle, my own life as it pertains to, as I had mentioned earlier, my youngest brother has for over 30 years been an alcoholic, and it's something that I never grew up with. I never expected it. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know the signs. I thought he was just showing off, trying to be, something that he wasn't, and not realizing that what he was doing was an addiction, an addictive behavior. He's been super sick and in and out of the hospital like for many years. In fact, probably weekly now. And he's been living with my mother she's like in her mid 80s. So he's been living with her for quite some years. And so it's taken quite a toll on her, which then I'm like, oh, as I've gotten into this self-development journey, ooh, yeah, this is something I need to unpack a little bit more and see where I can come in. But so I just wanted to say thank you for that because I feel like it's been a really good, maybe, I don't know if you could say it's fortuitous that we met, because I think that through your journey, what I'm learning from you, it could possibly be something that I can, at least bring into my own family unit. Anyway, as I said, this is about you. So let's start at the beginning. Tell us, like who you are, where your life story, basically, your journey through life, your experiences, and then we'll just go from there. So the floor is yours.
Thanks. So I was the youngest child of 4, and my sisters are 13 and 10 years older than me. My brother is 7 years older than me, so that'll give you an idea that I was a afterthought accident kind of girl, but I don't look at myself like that anymore. However, I was raised as poor Kelly. Poor Kelly doesn't have any attention. Poor Kelly doesn't have anyone to take care of her. And it just, I still was hearing it from my sisters almost to this day, the guilt that they had for not being able to care for me the way that they wanted to, because they had to care for themselves and they were young. So growing like that, I had, my parents were divorced by the time I was 2. I had a stepmother 6 months later that my mother did not like. So my dad was a pharmacist who was very successful, owned his own pharmacies, and was a workaholic and an alcoholic. So he had his life with his wife, and my 2 older sisters went and lived with him. The courts let my brother and myself stay with my mom, but by this time she was already very sick drinking. So, and it took me until I was almost 40 to realize why. Why did you do this to yourself? And I realized that, she was 17, brought up Catholic when she was pregnant and married for the first time. And then when my father cheated, that's just such a sin. And then she lost her family. And so the way she looked at herself, she just condemned herself to being, a bad person and going against pretty much everything that the Bible had taught her. And we didn't know back then in the 70s and 80s as much as we do now about the disease of alcohol, about mental illness. And so it's hard to help someone anyway, regardless, but never mind that, they didn't have the help that they have today for people. So about when I was 15, I knew that if I did not change who I was or what I was doing with my life, living with my mom, that I wasn't going to make it. I missed 86 days out of 180 days my freshman year of high school to partying and drinking and doing whatever I wanted because I didn't have anybody to tell me otherwise, and she was getting really, really sick. And so I had enough. So I called one of my sisters and I said, I want to go live with Dad. And immediately she was like, there. We threw my stuff in trash bags and left and went to my father's. And that was Christmas Eve. I didn't tell anybody, none of my friends, not the school, no one, that I was leaving. And so I started the rest of my sophomore year at my father's house. in a small town, and they had told me, you're so far behind, you should actually go back to a freshman. And I said, no, I'm not going back to a freshman. I want to get out of high school. So I did the work, and it wasn't easy. I worked for my dad in his pharmacies, and finished high school. I didn't want to go to college. He made me go. I was 17 when I graduated. I still was not, an angel. I was not like totally sober. I had quit drinking, but not an angel. And so I didn't want to go. I wanted to take a break, but he wouldn't let me. So I did 2.5 years of community college, and then I got pregnant with my son. So I was 20, and on my 21st birthday, we went out to dinner, and I was 5 months pregnant. And that was very uncomfortable, to say the least, to be sitting there, when you should be having your first drink at a legal place or whatever, being pregnant. But anyway, and their dad was also, in the cycle of, he was an alcoholic. He did some drugs, didn't want my son. And so that was tough. And then I ended up 23 months apart. So getting pregnant with my daughter. By 23, I have 2 children. And by 24, I was a single parent. So I had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I left him knowing that I did not want to raise my children with an alcoholic, loudmouth person who did not even want kids. So I ended up being a single mom, and I worked in a pharmacy. I made crap money, had daycare, all of that stuff, and did what I had to do. I got behind on my bills, and my sister was the one who I was renting my apartment from, called my dad, told him I wasn't taking things seriously, and they were going to take me to court for $2,000. So I had to file for housing, and was approved. So I got low income housing, and the kids and I moved, and I, from there, was on my own and able to manage better than when I was paying everything at my sister's. And then I met my current ex-husband, and we started dating. We did, 3 or 4 years long distance, and I really wanted to live with him. And he had a home with his parents, and so he wanted us to live there. So I gave in after a long time, and I moved in, him and his parents, with my kids. And it was a great school system, 5-bedroom, 3-bath home, built-in pool, fenced-in yard, the kind of life everybody thinks that they want. And I did not know at the time what narcissism was. And I had to learn the hard way. And it took 7 years to figure it out, that his parents were very narcissistic. And they were trying to ruin my life by telling me everything I had to do, what my kids had to do, how we had to behave, even to the point of like doing all of my laundry for me. And so it got ugly, and they wanted me out. I wanted out. My kids wanted out, and my husband wouldn't leave. So I was, again, a single parent when they were 13 and 11, and moved out on my own. And that was about the time when things got really, really dark for me. I tried to take him back to be a good wife. Bible says you're married. Am I throwing it away, kind of thing? And then I learned that I did not like him. He let me walk, and for him to let me walk was enough for me to not be able to accept that we were going to be able to do anything together again. That was like a traitor type of thing for me. So I did ask him to leave finally and be done with my life. And he unwillingly left, and still wants me back to this day and hasn't moved on. But, so here I am, a single mom again with 2 teens, and I'm still not making great money. I'm in despair. I am in dark, dark places. And that was when it was showing up in my work. And I worked in a room with 5 people in a mailroom, and we all have different personalities, 8 hours a day. and you're taking me coming from the streets and working for my dad and going through all the things I went with, trying to mesh in a corporate environment with, five other people. It didn't work very well. And that was one of my managers who said to me, you are your own worst enemy. And I took it to heart, really. And I did some soul searching and realized I hadn't done any healing from any of the things that I went through in my life. And I was in victim mode, in that I had to change. So when I shared that with my sister, like I said, she gave me the book from Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. And I dug in, read the whole thing, and applied just about everything that she taught in there. And I started to see the shifts. I started to see that I could enroll back in college, because it was a promise I made to myself when I got pregnant and left college the first time. I wanted to finish. I wanted to be home with my kids ideally, so I wanted my own business. And that was what I chose for schooling. And so anyway, after I graduated, I was able to work in the company I work with, still been there 21 years, as an engineer, and really grow. And now I'm a leader around the world there. I work on a team, and I lead people through projects and things like that. So that's really good. But it wasn't where my heart was. My heart was in knowing that if I could do this and I could make my life into what I wanted it to be, anybody can. And that I couldn't just keep what I had learned to myself, and that I needed to share. And so through that, I've been sharing. I've been, working on myself and just sharing what I learned, and trying to help other people. So I guess that's a long version of where we are today.
No, but I think that's great, because I think a lot, and there's a lot really still, even within the book, that just powerful punch in very first few pages, that obviously would be a lot to go into today. But I think that you've really summed up like where you've been, why you are so passionate about what you do. I found five more words for you as you were speaking, because you've described yourself as loving, caring, and compassionate. And of course, yes, I truly believe that. I think you found that through finding yourself, through allowing yourself to love yourself, like you said in the beginning, which is, I truly believe, is that for us to live our lives with more joy, love, and gratitude, we have to love the person staring back at us, because it's just that nothing else will work if we don't. But I found these five words for you. So you were resilient. You really were resilient, resourceful. You were determined. You became a leader. And through that, you developed this kindness and your loving, caring, compassionate self to share with others, right? I mean, I just really feel like that's part of, and I'm sure there's more that could be added to that, but I really think that it's nice to know that there are other people out there that truly believe that when you love the person that you are, no matter where you're at in life, you could be, like in the worst place in your life right now, but if you love that person staring back at you in your reflection, you'll find a way to get through anything. And I can promise that is a guaranteed promise. I mean, you are testimony to that, my own life story as well. And many of the others, the ladies in this community, can attest to that as well. So now that you have gotten where you are, as far as you are now are you like a codependency recovery coach? Is that exactly what you do? What does it embody, like what you're doing with your
Yeah.
coaching?
So codependency is such a broad topic of many, many different categories of things.
Mm-hmm.
From denial to control to all kinds of things. So it's more really about your mentality, self-love, those kinds of things encompassed into a codependent person's life. I don't believe codependency is just one thing, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
don't believe that healing is just one thing either. So
Mhm.
what we find is we're unpacking layer after layer of things that we didn't even know we were carrying or that were affecting our daily lives. And then we get through one and here's another one. And it's like, where did that come from? Okay, let's try to tackle that one, like around money or, things like that. I had a very lack mindset and I didn't know where it came from. My father had a lot of money, my mother didn't. I stayed with my mom most of my life, so I was working by the time I was 14 to afford what I needed. Um, and my stepmother didn't have to work. She just spent his money and she sat home and she had the furs and the diamonds and all of these things, nice cars. And, I chose to live with my mom. I could have went to live with my dad. But, when you're codependent, you're pretty loyal to the person that you're caring for and you're a caregiver and you feel like they're not going to make it if you're not there. And guess what? When I left, she did finally pass away. It took 15 years, but she didn't get better and she was 61 years old and she passed away. And I had to accept that it wasn't my fault and that I wasn't going to be the one that was going to save her, and that was very difficult to learn and to accept. I think when we care for someone like that, we take them on as our own and we feel
Mhm.
like we can save them and we can't. So um, it's difficult. So those kinds of things, that healing, bringing it forth, like I am doing a Healing Your Inner Child workshop at 7:30 tonight. I do that once a quarter. And we go through and really look at what's your story today that you would tell
Mhm.
somebody in an elevator. And then we get into, affirmations and things like that. We do meditation for healing. And then we go through and we kind of write a new story of who you want to tell people you are versus what you thought you were before. And it's a very powerful workshop that has changed a lot of people actually. But so I'm excited for that one tonight. But it does go all the way back to unpeeling all those layers of life and beliefs that we've carried forward that aren't serving us anymore.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think too is you really did, like, you're talking about healing from a place that we often will just say, oh, I've been there, I've done it, I'm older now, that doesn't really affect me. But when I started, like, I can relate with you in that, because when I started my own journey, it was like, yeah, I've been there and I've done that, that doesn't affect me anymore. But you don't realize until something triggers you in a way that if you somehow find your way into a self-development, like, or a workshop such as yours, that it's going to help you unpack that story a little bit deeper than the level that you've allowed yourself to go. I think that's the power. And the power also is really on you. Like, you have the power. I think a lot of people, and I've even heard people say this, repeat this back to me. It's, when I've said, you have that inner critic inside your head that starts to chime in, especially if you don't really love yourself or you're having difficulty believing in some of the positive things that other people are maybe telling you. And I've often said, you can actually talk back to that voice and tell that
Mm-hmm.
voice that you're not willing to listen to that you want to change the narrative. And I've actually had someone say to me, oh, I didn't even realize I could do that. And it's, yes, you do. You have the power. It's really up to you. And you even have the power to write your story. In fact, even writing your story, most people don't realize this, but if you actually took a look at your entire life and you were to put it down on paper, you have been writing your story from the moment you took your first breath and opened your eyes. You've been writing your story. And so, whether it's been in your control or out of your control until it was in your control, your story has been unfolding. And you have now, at a later time in life, now that you are more in control of yourself, you can write that. So, rewrite it and make those changes if you truly want to. But it really is a decision and it's your choice. No one can make you do it.
Right.
And like you were saying, um, it's your responsibility. It is up to you to make the decision to then take this, do the steps, to do the work, to unpack all those things and actually do the work, because no one else can do it for you, and no one can make you do it. So no, I really love that. So you do that quarterly, 7:30 Eastern. So that's in less than 2 hours now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so do you do it on Facebook, or do you have a group offline?
I do it in on Zoom. I do it live. So I usually put it out on Eventbrite and in my Facebook group, and out on Facebook to invite people to come. It is a paid event, but it's got a workbook with it that you can take with you. I ask that people try to find a picture of them when they were little, that they can use to take into the meditation with them, so they have, just something that they can actually visualize. And it's had great success where people have really, been able to actually talk to their little child and hug their little child and heal, and be able to tell them that it's okay, and that, you're there for them now, and that no one's going to hurt them anymore because you're not going to let them. And we find that little child in there is scared and doesn't know, and so that way there we really get the healing from knowing that we are in control, and even knowing that we have something to take care of, right, which is our little child who needs us.
Oh gosh. Oh, I love that. It's unfortunate. It is a couple hours away, but I mean, if you wanted to drop the link yourself into the group to see if anyone would want to join the group, I think it would be really beautiful to do. I think it's needed. I think more so now, self-care is probably, to me, at the very top of the list of things, of the most important things to focus on. And self-care can be not just around the self-love, but the self-care around taking care of your body, whether it's how you feed yourself, hydrating your body. Because, if you think about it, the biggest organ on your body is your skin. The way you eat, not, if you're not hydrating yourself well, you don't want to like become dehydrated. You don't want to become lethargic because you're not eating right and you're not drinking enough. And then, of course, rest, taking mental breaks during the day. Those are parts of self-care. But then the other part too, which I think often, and those are things that people say, oh, well, that's like normal stuff. Yes, but most people aren't even doing that. And that's just the basics. But the deeper level stuff, the self-love stuff, like getting to the root core of who you are, so that you can say, you know what? I love that girl that's staring back at me. I love her no matter what she looks like, no matter how she talks, no matter how much money she makes or doesn't make, no matter what house she grew up in or didn't grow up, where she grew up in social housing like I did, or she grew up, feeling like she wasn't good enough, like you were saying, you felt, not good enough. Even myself, a lot of the women in the group have, life stories. We all have a life story. And those things, sometimes we feel like we've dealt with them, but we haven't yet, because we are now at an older age. Like, I'm going to be 60 in February, and I'm so glad I went through my self-development journey and continue to do it daily. I don't believe it's a one and done, like you said. It's not. It's an everyday process, because that means you're intentionally going all in for yourself in the self-care world. And I think that, to me, is so important. But I truly believe that, if we can get the word out there more and do more workshops like the one that you are running quarterly, I think that would be probably one of the biggest gifts that anyone could give themselves. Being able to say, you know what, I unpacked something today that I didn't even realize was influencing the way I was thinking. Like you were saying, a thought is just a thought, and a thought can change. It's how we decide. It's us making that decision. So I appreciate you coming on today. I loved getting to know you more and what you're doing. And I'm looking forward to finishing the book. And definitely don't go anywhere, because I'm going to talk to you after. But I'll get all the links for your next workshop. If you do, you have them where it's do you do them where they're already preset, or do you just excuse me, when the next one's coming up for the next quarter, do you just then put the link out there?
Yeah, I don't have the next one set up, but it would probably
Okay.
be around February when I'll do it
Okay.
again.
Yeah,
So
I think that would be great. So we'll make sure that I'll make sure that I put a calendar to note to remind so that I can get that link, get that up in the group. Because to me, it's like I said, self care to me is the top of the list for anything you do in life. And then I'll get, of course, any links and places where people can find you. Definitely, ladies, if you want to connect with Kelly, she's a member of our group, so you can DM her directly as a member in the group, and I will make sure that I link her information with this video as well in the guides. It's been such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for taking time. I appreciate
it
it.
was my pleasure. And I hope that everybody finds something helpful out of it. And feel free to reach out for sure. Thank you, Leslie.
Yeah. Thank you. Ladies, I hope you found some value today. I definitely did. I'm going to make sure also that in the post that I will link the book. As I said, I am in the midst of reading it. You might need to read something like this as well. So make sure that that's there, as well as the other. She's got two other books. As she said, one was You Can Heal Yourself, and then there was the other self-love one as well that she's also a part of. So make sure that I get that information for you so that you have access and can go and check it out for yourselves. And on that note, I will make sure that I will reach out to more of you to get you on here, get you showcased as well. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.